Grok 4.5 output tokens cost 76% less than Claude Opus 5, $6 per million versus 25. And that gap is real, verified, and it changes the math on every token-heavy workflow you're running right now. Both models dropped recently, and the pricing and capability gap between them is bigger than most people realize. I'm comparing Claude Opus 5 versus Grok 4.5 across 5 real tests, pulling from verified sources with no vendor money involved. And honestly, the final verdict is messier than that price gap makes it sound. There's one area where Claude Opus 5 pulls ahead in a way that could completely change which model you pick for your specific workflow. So who's this for? If you're running any kind of API workload, building agents, or just using a frontier model day to day, you're going to feel this decision in your bill or in your outputs. Picking the wrong one either costs you real money every month or leaves you with a model that can't handle what you're throwing at it. All right, so test 1 is reasoning depth and complex problem solving. When a model gets this wrong, you get confident sounding answers that are just flat out incorrect, and you might not catch it until something downstream breaks. A weak reasoner wastes your time and can corrupt the whole pipeline before you even notice. So I looked at every published benchmark I could find, and what surprised me is there's no head-to-head data here at all. Claude Opus 5 scores 43.3% on Frontier Bench, more than doubling its predecessor and 3 times the next best on RKGI3. Grok 4.5 hits 62% on Deep's WE. But those are different tests entirely, so you're looking at apples and oranges on screen right now. I was expecting at least one shared benchmark, and what actually happened is there isn't one. Nobody has run both models on the same test. So this round is a tie. We genuinely can't compare them on the same scale. Score stays at Claude Opus 5.0, Grok 4.50, 1 tied. Now, test 2 is real-time information access. Ask a model about something that happened last week, and a static knowledge cutoff just fails you. Full stop. You get stale answers, outdated prices, wrong context, and if you're building anything that touches current events or live data, that failure shows up right in front of your users. What I found here is pretty clear. Grok 4.5 has native real-time Xsearch, which means it can pull live social graph data right now. Claude Opus 5's knowledge cutoff is May 2026, which is actually the most current Claude cutoff ever, but it's still static with no live search at all. For anything happening today, Grok wins this one without much debate. I was expecting this to be closer. Maybe Opus had some search integration I missed, but nope. Grok 4.5 is the only frontier model with native real-time Xsearch, and that's a clean win. So Grok 4.5 takes test 2. Running score now, Claude Opus 5.0, Grok 4.51, 1 tied. Okay, so test 3 is pricing and token costs, and this is the one that actually shows up in your bank account. Run a token-heavy workload at the wrong price tier, and you're burning money fast, and most people don't realize how much until they get a surprise bill at the end of the month. I pulled the pricing pages, and the numbers are pretty stark. Claude Opus 5 is $5 per million input tokens, $25 per million output. Grok 4.5 is $2 input, $6 output. Grok also has cash input at 30 cents per million, which Opus doesn't publish at all. That output gap is wild. Honestly, I expected a gap, but 60% cheaper on input and 76% cheaper on output is way bigger than I thought it'd be. So Grok 4.5 wins test 3, and it's not close. That puts the score at Claude Opus 500, Grok 4.52, 1 tied. So test 4 is response speed and latency, and slow tokens kill user experience fast. If you're building anything interactive, a model that takes forever to respond feels broken even if the output is great, and your users will just leave before the answer finishes loading. I went looking for throughput numbers, and this is where it gets frustrating. Grok 4.5 claims 80 to 90 tokens per second from the vendor, but a third-party measurement came in at 58.3 TPS, which is a meaningful gap, in Claude Opus 5, no published TPS figure at all. I was expecting at least something from Anthropic, but there's nothing. I was expecting Grok to win this one easily, given it's the only model with any numbers at all. But without Opus data, calling it a win feels wrong. You can't compare something to nothing, so this is another tie. Score now sits at Claude Opus 5.0, Grok 4.52, 2 tied. Last one, test 5 is safety and instruction following, and this one matters a lot if you're in a regulated industry or handling sensitive data. A model that doesn't follow instructions precisely or that retains your data without telling you can create real legal and compliance problems that are way harder to fix than a bad output. What I found is that Claude Opus 5 claims state-of-the-art alignment on GDP-BEL AAV2 and has a zero data retention policy, which is a strong signal for anyone in a privacy-sensitive context. Grok 4.5 has no published alignment benchmarks and no disclosed data retention policy at all, and I'll say Opus's numbers are vendor reported, so take them with a grain of salt. I was expecting Grok to at least have some safety disclosure, but there's nothing to compare against. Opus has claims, Grok has silence, and that asymmetry is real, but it's not a verified head-to-head win. So this one's a tie too. Final score, Claude Opus 5.0, Grok 4.52, 3 tied. Claude Opus 5 wins on frontier reasoning claims. 43.3% on frontier bench, which is the highest among frontier models right now, and 3 times the next best score on Arc AGI 3. It also wins on privacy, and zero data retention is a concrete policy Grok simply doesn't match. Those two things matter a lot for certain workloads. Grok 4.5 wins on price, hard, input tokens at 40% of what Opus charges, output tokens at 24%. It's the only frontier model with native real-time X-search, so for live data, it's kind of in a class of its own. And it actually publishes throughput numbers 80 to 90 TPS vendor claimed, which Opus doesn't even try to match. Honestly, I went in expecting a closer fight, and what I got is 2 very different tools. Grok wins 2 verified tests, 0 for Opus. That doesn't make it the right pick for everyone though. If you need proven alignment, zero data retention, and frontier reasoning depth, go Claude Opus 5. If you need live search and cheat tokens, Grok 4.5 wins. $6 output versus 25. That number decides it.